I'm remembering right now how when I was trying to make friends with that Baltimore broadcaster, at that very time, my Uncle Fred, was trying to draw close to me. And I'm now remembering that I was over at his house and I decided I was going to call that broadcaster from his phone. Now, I believe that's a long distance call. However, I felt I was right in what I was doing. And I got to say, let me repeat, this broadcaster was my age, okay? Secondly, she was not better educated than I was. I don't know what her education was, but I would say there are not many people in the United States, whether they have a PhD or not, that are better educated than I am. I would say there are a few, okay? And Northrop Frye, who was the mentor at a distance that I had as a mentor, never knew him personally, although I did shake hands with him and introduce myself. Northrop Frye had a master's degree, and he was a world-renowned scholar. And I believe Joseph Campbell, I feel like I'm being motivated to overstep myself by my enemies. Let me just stop. It's enough. Northrop Frye, a world-renowned literary scholar, had a master's degree. That was all. Okay? Now, this Baltimore broadcaster was not a social superior of mine in any way. Okay? So I was perfectly within my rights, if you will, my unwritten rights as an individual in the United States to befriend this person if I wanted to. In addition, I had other things going for me, okay? I had worked in the news business for the newspaper famous as a major newspaper from that very city of Baltimore, okay? And I had worked side by side with the premier people in the news business that worked at that newspaper. And I knew them all by name, and I had to do with them every day, okay? For 2 years while I was in graduate school. So somehow I was out of line by trying to become friends with this person. There's no way that I was, okay? So I did call from my uncle's house to try to talk to her, and I didn't get through, of course. They're not going to put me through to her, but I hung up, and that was it. Now, at the time, I felt very guilty about calling her up from my uncle's house because I didn't tell my aunt or uncle who I was calling. I don't believe my uncle was home at the time. My aunt was, though. Aunt Rosemary, she was there. She was right there. I said, "Can I use your phone?" She said, "Yeah." So, in other words, I was saying, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. And I'm gonna maintain that to this day. Now, I'm gonna say that what was done to me was wrong. It was profoundly wrong, and I am not going to any courts in the United States about what happened. I am not. But I will go to the Lord with my prayers about the injustice I suffered there. And that's about the extent of it. Now, let me say, as I keep repeating, I do not believe that this Baltimore broadcaster herself was behind the persecution and the injustice that I suffered as a result of trying to befriend her to escape the same thing I'm trying to escape now in my 70s. I'm still trying to escape what I was trying to escape back then, okay? But by now, I want nothing to do with anybody in the United States at all. You're, as far as I'm concerned, you are forfeit and disqualified from having anything to do with me from here on out. All of you, okay? I don't want any help from you. Help is a privilege, okay? To accept help from someone is to grant them the privilege of helping you. And I'm not going to grant that privilege to anybody in the United States. Well, for a lot of reasons. I don't trust anybody here, but let me not sound like too much of a madman while I'm in the midst of the folks here. Give them more reason to come breaking down my door, and God knows what they got next planned. So those are some of my thoughts there. It just so happened that this is what I wanted to say, okay? Let's say I had been successful in befriending that Baltimore broadcaster. And secondly, Uncle Fred had drawn close to me and was trying to find out, AJ, what happened to you back there in 1982? I don't get it. Okay? So now I would have had a person in broadcasting, in the news business, which I thoroughly trusted at the time. As, I mean, you're going to talk to somebody in the news, you can't get a more trustworthy source of help in the world than the news business. No more. Okay? I don't believe that anymore, but at the time I did. But let's say I had befriended this Baltimore broadcaster and Uncle Fred had come online with me, try to figure out what happened to me in 1982. Well, I am now in my 70s at the same place I was back then. And what happened? Uncle Fred mysteriously got murdered, and I was imprisoned in what I call a mental prison. From there, I went to a halfway mental prison house, and I've been stigmatized ever since as the crazy uncle of my family. Okay? Separated from everybody. Everybody I ever knew, growing up, going to school, everybody in my family. I'm completely isolated as a result of this injustice. Well, I'm not going to give up because I've been done this great injustice. And I will prove that I have been done this injustice, and I will try as hard as I can to bring the guilty people responsible for destroying my life this way to justice. Okay, today is Monday, the 15th, I believe, June 15th, 2026, and right now it's 12:50 p.m. in the Washington, D.C. area of the United States of America. That's all from me for now. Bye for now. Footnote. I've been listening to this song that I like quite a lot. Let's see, the title of the song. I can't remember, but the words that I'm thinking about now are, "Sweet sorrow is the call tomorrow." And this is written by a woman, and that call, she's waiting for the call from a man who is her zivug, her soulmate. That's what she's looking for, and she's been waiting for that call because apparently women, they want the man to call them. They don't want to be calling that man. I had an older sister, and, I've seen this kind of thing, waiting for that call. Oh, is it hard? Well, let me say that I have never done that. I have never called a woman up successfully and gotten any kind of a successful response from that. Never. Anytime I tried, it didn't work for me. So, when I was listening to this woman's song and I was watching her video, I was saying, quite an attractive woman, but I can see from this video, this woman would never have wanted me. I like her song quite a lot, but I said, there's no way. I am not her zivug. I don't, I would say, I wish that a woman that attractive would have liked me, but I say, I can clearly see from the video she made, this is the kind of woman who wouldn't have given me 5 seconds before she'd be hanging up. So, am I thinking about calling a woman up even now, even if it's my zivug? Yeah, I'm a married man, but it's a very complex matter. I am not a married man. You see this? These are the 2 lines of Judaism. This was the symbol of Judaism before the Magen David was accepted in 1948 when Israel became a state. Okay? So I put it on a hat here myself, a kippah. And When I converted to Judaism in 2020, let me repeat, the rabbi who converted me, I got to say, she surprised me. She said to me, "You are now a single man." I was married. She knew it. But no, in 2020, I became a single man. Let me repeat, okay? So, I am not out of line at all in saying that I am not even going to call my zivug, my soulmate, because that kind of thing does not work for me. Look at me, I'm in my 70s. I got a lifetime experience on what does and what does not work for me. And that does not. That's the sweet sorrow of the call tomorrow. If you're interested in me, forget that call. I'm not going to call you. Okay, it doesn't work. Even if you were waiting for the call, I'm trying to imagine this. Even if you were waiting for a call from me, if I called you, I actually called you, you would be hanging up in 5 seconds because you'd say, "What is this? He's not saying anything right. He's not doing anything right." So that doesn't work for me. I just want to make the point that, when I hear that song, it's a beautiful song, shows the longing this woman has for her zivug and all. Well, I imagine this woman might be old like me by now, but I'm not sure. I think this song might have been written in the 1990s. So the woman, I don't know anything about her. Maybe she was born in 1970. That would put her almost 20 years younger than me, but still, she's a 50-year-old woman by now. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make that footnote. Footnote. Okay, let me go back and rephrase, sum up. The myth we're looking at here for possible solutions to why we're not meeting. This is to you, Bashusi, as all these messages are. Shouldn't I be free to do that? I'm freedom of speech. I can talk to whoever I want. Right? I'm freedom of speech. I'm not being rude to anyone or offensive. I'm just saying that this message is for you. If I could call you on the phone, I would. But let me say, I know I'm missing the point I wanted to make, that for possible solutions here of why we're not able to meet, I'm saying mythically, if we're looking at you and me as a kind of Cinderella story, okay, where I'm Principe Alberto, like Principe Guido in that movie, oh God, what's the name of it? He won all kinds of awards. Life is Happy, this kind of thing. Over there in Italy. Okay, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the world. I don't want to get a YouTube following, make money, and so I'm trying to talk to you. If we were on the phone, I'd be talking like this, and I'd be talking just like this. Okay, so Life is Beautiful is the name of that movie. He says he's Principe Guido, okay? Well, in his story, he is a prince. Other people don't think he is, fine, okay? So in our story, we are like characters in a romance novel where Northrop Frye says, what about those characters and what about us as readers? He says, those romances imagine a world where we are all kings and princes and princesses and so on, not by birth, but simply because we were born. That's who we are, okay? So I got to qualify that I'm a prince and you're a princess. No, this is our story, and that's the way we're going to look at it. So with that in mind, I'm saying what I said earlier. In that story and in Cogeners, to use Northrop Frye's word, for similar stories. The prince is not going to be going out to meet the princess. The story is the princess comes to the prince. Now, this is a story of true love, right? Which is rare. You got lots of stories of romances between men and women, right? But are they the true love story that Cinderella is? Walt Disney says this is the most beautiful story ever told. That's what he says about that story. So not everybody's going to have that story told about them. Okay? They might have the stories that you see on TV. You know, the sitcoms that they meet this way, that way, but no. If you want this true love story, you're going to be in that myth where those things happen the way they do in the myth. Otherwise, you're not going to have that story at all. And as I say, these myths are so powerful. It's like you're going to stand in front of a tsunami and get it to change course. That tsunami's going to pick you up and sweep you away. So will a tornado and so on. That's what these myths are like. So, I am not going to call you up, Bishuasi, and I'm not going to go and try to meet you. I tried to meet you and it didn't work. I've been to your country 3 times. I am not going to go back, and I am not going to try to meet you in any way. You want to meet me, you come here to the palace here. That's where we meet. You don't come here, we don't meet. It's that simple. So, that doesn't mean that means I don't like you or something? No. I'm following laws of mythology, let's call them. And you cannot break those laws. So I'm just letting you know what the laws are. If this is the true thing for you, you will be obeying the laws without even thinking about it, because that's how powerful the whole thing is. Now, I said everything I wanted to say. I'm not going to try to meet you, apart from here in the kingdom, or call you. I'm not going to be Sweet Sorrow is the call tomorrow. You're not going to get a call from me. Look, I wouldn't dare call that place you used to work, apparently. I wouldn't dare call there. And I wouldn't dare show up there after what happened to me in 1988. I don't care what anybody says to me. To the contrary, I will not do that. I will not do that, and I want nothing to do with them. Okay? That's all. I want to be very serious in what I'm saying about the injustice that happened to me. Nobody wants to listen, that's fine. Stay back and do nothing. But I have tried to do things and been severely punished, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay? I learned my lesson. I will not go to that place where you used to work. I wouldn't dare, and I haven't made any attempts to have anything to do with that place at all. Been to your country 3 times, didn't even look it up on my phone. Okay? So, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Let me conclude with this, okay? When I was a kid, there was a show on TV, one of those legal shows where they had a judge there. People go up before that judge. This was a way long time when I was like preteen. And one of the cases was this parent, he took his kid's hand. He told his kid not to play with the stove or something, and the kid did something with the stove. So the parent turned the burner on high and put the kid's hand on the burner. A flaming hot burner, he put that child's hand on the burner. And the judge said to this guy, look, you can imagine what he said to him. You cannot do that. I'm sentencing you to this, that, and the other. It was severe. Okay? Now, that is what happened to me. For what these people and what I call the quackery call ask for help. I did ask for help repeatedly, and I got severely punished. Like that kid put his hand on fire, okay? The parent put his hand on a flaming hot burner. And that kind of thing did happen to me more than once. Okay, so I am not going near that place where you used to work. I will not do that. Okay, finally, I know I'm going on and on, but it's just me and you, right? So I was saying that sometimes it looks to me like there's an analogy starting up where me wanting to have to do with somebody like you is like me way back when I was in high school wanting to play football, which was my best sport. Okay? When I became big enough to play, unfortunately, by the time I became big enough to play, I had injured my neck severely, probably by playing as such a tiny guy up against these monstrous other guys who just pounded me down until I had the vertebrae were closed at this important juncture in my neck. And now I could not play at all. I had been courageous out there playing with much bigger guys. I'm saying that I had, what do you call this? Delayed maturation. I did. And so, you know, as I'm saying, I was like 14, 15, getting down into my stance, seeing these big hairy legs coming at me. You guys outweighed me by 40 pounds and more. They were just pounding me, okay? So by the time I came big enough to play, I couldn't play, okay? I wanted to, and I couldn't. So when I dropped off the team, I wept. I wept 2 times in my adult life. That time, and when our dog was poisoned over the past 10 years of this harassment that's been keeping me and you apart. These great people in the United States poisoned my dog, and I wept. The way I did when I told the coach, I can't play, and I started to bawl. Well, I'm saying it looks like maybe I could play in your league with a woman as beautiful, as successful, as intelligent, and as accomplished as you, and as recognized. It looks maybe like I could do that. But I'm saying I cannot play in your league. So if you're expecting me to join that league somehow, show up at that place you used to work, that's not going to happen. I cannot play in that league, and I'm not going to. I cannot do it. I simply can't. So I'm letting you know that. That's all.